Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. And as you know, I'm always scouring the globe looking for thought leaders, influencers, creators, making a dent in today's world in doing good. And so today is going to be talking all about mental health advocacy from Matthew Dickson. And he's going to talk about his personal experience with mental health, his work with advocacy. And like I said, I'm always highly fascinated with individuals changing the world. So I'll let Matthew introduce himself. Matthew, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me on. This is great.
Yeah, I know we had connected through Podmatch, and you actually started and founded mindaid.ca. So tell us more about this work that you're doing.
Yeah, so I live in Eastern Canada and I had a pretty typical average childhood. I was taking engineering at my local university and bicycled across Canada. That came out of nowhere. I don't That's a whole story in itself. But at the end of university, I got schizophrenia and it was really tough. And I tried to offer hope to people going through it and resources. But anyway, so a lady saw me at my worst in 1994, and she said I looked like I was walking through a world of flying glass. And I was like, yeah, thanks for noticing. That's exactly how I feel, sadly. And anyway, so the whole time I went through schizophrenia, I'm 51 now, so I'm doing well now. It took a long time to get better, but for the whole time I went through it, my heart went out to people in war-torn countries or extreme poverty who have mental illness to go through as well. And
Mm,
I went through treated mental illness. People in developing countries they go through untreated mental illness and war or extreme poverty. So it's so horrible. Some people are actually kept in chains in some
mm,
countries with mental illness. They're tied to a tree, tied to a bed, with their foot through a log, tied up in the shed, and with untreated mental illness as well.
mhm,
And I don't know why, but it wasn't until 28. I never went searching for content on mental illness in developing countries.
mhm,
And in 2017, TED Talk burbled up into my Google feed by Vikram Patel, and he was the first person who said, "Well, look, we've had these models of basic physical care for people for decades: how to treat a broken leg, how to deliver a baby where there's no hospital for hundreds of miles around.
mm,
Those documents existed for decades." He says, "Why don't we do the same thing for mental health?" So he did, and these models now are low cost, proven effective, and scalable. And the World Health Organization is trying to figure out the best way to roll them out to the masses. In
mhm,
the meantime, I found 10 nonprofits that are using these models, and I'm trying to steer people towards them. So in 2018, I made mindaid.ca, and it's the world's first website with all the groups helping the cause on one site. They're otherwise scattered across the web. And in the resources section of my website, there are more nonprofits beyond those 10 right now. You can't necessarily donate to those, but the 10 ones you can donate to or fundraise for. And I keep finding more as time goes on, which is great. So I think as mental health is talked about more and more these days, especially now with COVID, I'm hoping that more groups will be created in developing countries uh, helping people with mental illness.
mm. Yeah, interesting story. And one so what I love this this advocacy part where you turn your trials and tribulations into to triumphs, and you talk about you read books voraciously to help you in your recovery. So and you also learned how to deal with people such as police officers and mindset secrets of Navy SEALs and Olympic athletes, and how to get a survivor personality. I'm really interested in these types of
Yeah, yeah. So I read books a lot. I mean, it's amazing. All these books are resources online. You've got world-class experts teaching you how to get a stronger mentality, better mindset, better mental health. And so I had schizophrenia. I improved weekly. Every single week, I noticed an improvement over 27 years. So I I was reading books all this time, but my mental health still wasn't 100%. And but what I try to tell people is, okay, so yeah, you read a book on how a Navy SEAL gets a stronger mindset, but you may not be able to use that information right away because you're sick with mental illness or depression or anxiety. But you can, having that knowledge will still help you. The old cliche, knowing is half the battle, just having the knowledge of how they do that, how police officers deal with people. It's incredible. You may not be able to use it fully, but it helps. Every little bit helps. When you're struggling with mental illness, it's tough. And if you can find anything that'll help you, any things, it's just golden. So police officers, they use verbal judo. There's a book called Verbal Judo: The Gentle Art of Persuasion by George Thompson, and he teaches people how to use what they do with. So what they do is when someone comes at you with harsh words, or as a police officer, a gun or a knife, they they come at you with intensity. It's and quite often we rise to match it when we talk back to them. Uh, for a police officer, someone coming at them with a gun, the police officer yells back, "Drop the gun!" He says the number one rule is stay calm. Don't get swept up into the emotion of it all and the drama. Just stay calm. And the second thing you have to do is find out where they are. Read their body language, use emotional intelligence to find out where they are mentally. Do they need a hug? Are they even listening to you right now? Where are they in the state of mind? And this can apply to anybody. He says if it works in the streets, it'll work at home. And the third thing is once you find out where they are, talk from their frame of reference. Don't talk from your frame of reference. And he says so often he says the vast majority of people that police interact with are just they have no one to listen to them. There are so few people have heard words of encouragement and praise throughout their life. A lot of us are stressed, and no one is listening to us. And if you can be that person to listen to somebody, let them vent for a while. For me, if I've got a lot going on, 45 minutes, an hour and a half tops, and I'm done. I've got everything off my chest. And he says, be that person for somebody else to just let them vent. And as you stay calm and let them vent, talking from their frame of reference, it'll de-escalate the situation until they feel heard. Oh, wow, someone's actually listening to me. And I think this should be taught in schools. I'm trying to mention to healthcare professionals, for people everywhere. It has helped me so much. And I still recommend reading other books on people skills and whatnot, but verbal judo is the best one I found. The
Mm.
survivor personality, by Al Siebert. He studied how people got through the Holocaust, cancer, natural disasters, alcoholism, all sorts of things. He
Mm.
said one of the things he found was they all said the same thing. After going through something horrible, they said, I would never, ever, ever want to go through that again. But that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. He says, for example, cancer patients, they fall into three categories. The first category is they say, "This is it. My time's up. I'm going to die, and I just accept that. That's the way it's going to be." And the second group says, "Doc, I'm going to fight this, and I'll do whatever you tell me to do to get better." The third group, the survivors, say, "Doc, I'm going to fight this. I'm going to listen to what you have to say, but I'm going to go and get a second opinion, and a third opinion, and a fourth opinion. I'm going to take my recovery into my own hands." And they are sometimes labeled as difficult patients because they say, "No, you're not going to do that to me. I'm the one in charge here. This is my body, and I'm going to tell you what to do." Mark Devine, his book Unbeatable Mind, he's a Navy SEAL. He's created and trained thousands of Navy SEAls. And he had so many people coming up and asking him, like, "Mark, I'm not a Navy SEAL, but can you give me some of your secrets?" So he did. He's got books out. He's got a training facility where civilians can go and get training, physical training in real life, and go through some of their exercises. And the book is chock full of the things to do to be like a Navy SEAL. Sports psychology books. Olympic athletes have written all their stuff down in books, and all this stuff is free in your library,
Mm.
or for $20 for a book on Amazon, or free on YouTube. It's. I really encourage people to learn about this. For example, diet and exercise. How many people read about that? You think, well, I'll go to the gym, do some bench presses and some bicep curls, but have you ever read about Exercise, there's tons of books on it, diet and
Mm.
exercise. So yeah, education is really, really big. And if you didn't get the names of the books I'm mentioning here, I've got them, my top books and things that I found for free on my website under the best mental health tips button there, or section or link.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I've got resources there for people with schizophrenia, uh, and yeah,
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting because I've actually because I'm not a Navy SEAL. I'll probably fail out of the first day, but it's interesting to just get into their mindset because they're going on no food, water, sleep, shelter, harsh physical conditions, people yelling at them, and so it's interesting just to get into their mind, and especially Olympic athletes too. Like would they, what it take. It's kind of the mindset it takes to win. Yeah. Uh, Tell us more about Mind Aid CA's work, how it's helping, some of the success stories, some of the work it's outreach it's doing.
yeah. So basically, it's a simple curation site. It's I'll send you off the website sends you off in a bunch of different directions for groups helping the cause. Robin Williams' son Zach Williams, he has a he helps promote hashtag Break the Chains to help unchain people, as does Allison Janney, the Hollywood actress, and Tim Shriver, founder of the Special Olympics. And what they do with these models of basic mental health care is they go into a community and they find and they handpick certain people who already have some basic leadership skills or maternal health skills, something that they that have some knowledge of, and they train them how to deliver the basic mental health care, these models. And it's some people are skeptical of it in the community when people come in and teach them this stuff, but when they see someone who's disheveled and can't do anything and lying in bed all day,
Mm.
and all of a sudden, months later, they're back up, they're productive, they're working in a field or doing whatever, producing, helping out in the community. They say, oh, wow, how can we get more of this? So a lot of it is local led. They don't want white people going in and telling them what to do. It's also people who learn the stuff can help tell other people about it and teach other people in their community and other communities. So it's yeah, one of the groups, Find Mind, they work in Uganda. Forrest Whitaker, the Hollywood actor, his foundation is helping them, and they do great work. They don't use medications. Some groups give medications to people. Find Mind doesn't. Strong Minds doesn't either. Strong Minds works in it helps women with depression in Africa, and they get women in groups of 8 or 10 women. They meet once a week or so for so many months, and many of the women are depression free after 6 months or so. I think 6 months. It's a fairly short time frame. It's not decades, which is what I had to go through. But yeah, Strong Minds is actually they're starting to work in America. Basic Needs US, another group that helps people in developing countries with mental illness. They started a couple pilot projects in the US in a poor urban setting, I think in Detroit, and in an indigenous rural setting, I think in New Mexico. And they were getting promising results using these models of basic mental health care in America. Now, Strong Minds is doing the same thing. They have launched Strong Minds America, and they are working in some places in America using models of basic mental health care, like with the groups that they're working with women in depression with depression in Africa, and they're getting good results. So it's the other thing, Shekhar Saxena, he's from Harvard. He spoke at the UN, and he said every country, when it comes to mental health care, is a developing country.
Mm.
Still, I'd rather be in Canada here for mental health than, say, some places in Africa. But essentially, he says what he's saying is that all countries have a developing country's mental health care system. Some good news: there's a man in Nova Scotia, in Canada, and in his area of Nova Scotia, he dramatically improved his area's mental health and addiction system. And he's got a book called "It's Not About Us." His name's Todd Leader, and the book it's about how the rest of Canada can transform to do the same thing that he did, and it's all about basing it on client centered, not bureaucracy centered. If someone comes into your facility, your clinic, how long is it before you help them? Do you get them to fill out forms, sit them in a waiting room, then another waiting room, or do you attend to them immediately? Your phone call, your answering machine, your message is the first thing they hear if someone's in crisis, saying, call this number if you're in a crisis, or what to do in a crisis, or do you go through, hi, welcome to here, and go through a whole bunch of other options before you get to what to do if you're in a crisis? It's simple things like that. And the book's written for Canada, but my opinion, and I'm not an expert, the only official certification I have is an engineering degree. But I would assume that a lot of other countries could follow the same practice, even though it's just written for Canada.
Yeah. Very interesting discussion. How do people contact you, follow you, check out your work?
Go to mindaid.ca at mindaid.ca, and please check out the resources section. I've got my best mental health tips there for people on how to improve their own mental health tips, on improve their own mental health. I'm quite proud of that. That's 20 plus years of reading and researching and plus lived experience to go into. And all my social media links are there. Yeah. And donate if people you can donate to $3 a month to some of these nonprofits these days. $2 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month. It's a coffee a month, 10 cents a day to help someone with mental illness in a developing country get basic mental health care, get unchained, take shackles off them. So, or at least share stuff. Share. You can. A lot of these nonprofits are on social media. You can share their stuff for free. Have conversations with people about it. Yeah. The more people that know, the more people that could help because the cause is vast and a resource.
Yeah. And so for all the listeners out there, let's thank Matthew for sharing his inspiring stories and talking about some excellent resources. I'm going to check out those books as well for my own edification and as well as the wonderful work mindaid.ca is doing. And all of those resources will be in the links and show notes. He's also on all the major social media platforms. So check those out. And with that, thanks so much for coming on to the podcast.
You're welcome. Thanks so much for having me.